Morning folks, it's Simon here. We just plant trees. No dogs with me. We're out in Lanzarote. I may post one or two other videos that predate this by a couple of days. However, it's been very, very windy. Lanzarote often is. And in the background, you may be able to see Fuerteventura at the bottom end. And you may ask, why am I here? Because we have flown, and I feel pretty guilty about flying these days. It's my first, one and only foreign holiday of this year, and we came here last year on honeymoon, so we wanted to revisit. However, as usual, I'm thinking about the environment and I'm thinking about what I might do to offset. I'm already planning to plant a hedge in the garden of around about 90 mixed broadleaf saplings, around about 90 pounds including delivery, 60 to 90 centimetres in height. So beech, holly, all our regulars within there. I think there's hawthorn in there. I think there's 10 hawthorn actually. So I'm planning to do that, but it's really an offsetting program. It's certainly not a reduction or a stoppage program, not at all. I take a little bit of comfort in knowing that my carbon footprint for a UK resident is well below average, but it's still up there, and the volume of carbon we're all still pumping out into the atmosphere. I've had a look around our hotel complex and it appears that all the power is provided by solar, but it's a very windy island. I don't see any wind turbines. Solar seems to be the main power as far as I can see. In fact, I'm looking now into the distance above my camera, and there are quite a few complexes with solar panels facing behind me, which must be south. So that's comforting to know, as well as the fact that the price of solar has gone down dramatically with the high production in China. And of course, associated with that is the mining of cobalt and the precious metals that are needed to make and maintain these systems. So there's always that to take into account, which is nigh impossible really when you look at the carbon footprint of an industry. It's very, very difficult. It always seems to be an estimation. Again, please, I appreciate your comments. Please keep them positive, keep them friendly if we can. I like a nice debate, but I prefer it to be friendly. Please like and subscribe and share to help the channel grow. That would be great. I'm not here to make any money off anybody. I'm really interested in having loads and loads of followers. It would be nice. I'm not interested in monetising this channel because of no control over the adverts that we make money from either, so that's to be borne in mind. I'm here really just as a video log of my life and my account of what's happening in my life, to keep it for posterity, and also spark debate. Some of it will be controversial. In fact, most of it will be controversial because we're talking about looking after a home, a planet which there's many things human beings don't share in common, but this is the one thing we do share in common, is the ground under our feet and the weather up in the skies. So if we can't share that in common, then I think we are doomed as a species, really, aren't we? Let's be honest. And all of archaeological history suggests that potentially we will be doomed. Look at all of the species that have gone extinct, but we have some capacity to do something about this. So let's try our best, eh? I've been trying to look into Jet2, our airline's offsetting program that they had in place, which they did proudly advertise over the tannoy on the plane coming here. I will bring you that information. It's as much for my information as anybody else's, but I will bring it you, and I'll try my best to have a little look into it and see what it is they're claiming to do to offset. But as we or none, I'm sure you know now. Um, Jet fuel and airline travel is one of the biggest emitters of carbon dioxide into our atmosphere. So until we change our systems and ideas about how we live a life, and I think that the real question has to be, could we not find a life where we don't have to go and have a massive break, that we enjoy so much that we don't need a holiday from it? Would be nice, wouldn't it? Would be nice. Really would. But of course we all look forward to these things, especially us Northern Europeans. We look forward to this break if we can afford it. And rewilding, of course, is a big topic now, isn't it? A big interesting topic in environmental circles. And I'm really pleased to hear as well people talking about rewilding the countryside with humans. Get people back out there. There's large portions of Europe that have become depopulated in the countryside, sometimes because of planning law. It's a complex issue, quite often because of planning law, but also because there's no work for people to do. There's nothing of gainful and meaningful employment. But under UK planning law, if you can prove that you need to live in an area on a small holding, you know, there is an ability to be able to try and either build your own home and live out there. But I think those in the countryside, but I think those laws are a long way from even being looked at to be changed, because the volume of people living in, especially England, not necessarily Wales and Scotland and over into Ireland, which are nowhere near as densely populated, is the issue that and the fear that, let's be honest, the people that live there already and really enjoy a much better lifestyle than some of the people living in poverty and inner cities really want to protect, and who can blame them? But if we come up with a system whereby we can start to offer gainful employment within countryside crafts, farming, hedge laying, dry stone walling, all these crafts that have gone or are very underperformed now, and actually have people performing them and not having to travel too far to do them as well, because there'll be enough work for them, become skilled craftsmen again. And this still happens in places like Romania, you know, leather workers and skilled artisan craftspeople are still there. We don't get it anywhere near as much now in the UK because of our industrialisation. And I don't personally think that it's been good for our overall health as a nation in the UK for that to have happened. And again, I'd appreciate people's opinions on that. I really would. And of course, again, in most of my videos, the topic always turns to trees. And I'd like people's opinions on where we're going to get these saplings from that we need to plant, and how we're going to plant them up, and how we're going to maintain them. That's a massive industry there waiting to happen at the moment. You know, the national forest, as we call in England, you know, it's been planted up with broadleaves, but there's an awful lot of conifers as well within these plantations that are there for industry. Now, how much of that is going to be for a rotational industry, perhaps on a 30-year cycle where these trees get chopped down for wood pulp, and another wood needs fencing, garden fencing, furniture, all these sorts of uses. You know, broadleaves do take longer and grow slower. Your oaks and your beech and your elm, all these beautiful woods do take a lot longer to grow to get to maturity. But in the meantime, should our new laws really promote forestry, and it looks like they are as we've moved slowly out of the European Union, it looks like they are, and that can only be a good thing, hopefully, that landowners are incentivised to plant and maintain and gain a crop off the tree eventually as a long-term crop, and replant and replenish and build up an ecosystem and potentially for the first 10 to 15 years graze in between those trees on a low density with low movement. And that's another thing, stocking levels in between trees. You know, if we're going to build up an ecosystem while the trees are growing, if it's constantly trampled by grazing animals, for example sheep that have been there too long, you really need the dung and the urine from an animal, but they also need to move on. So of course this is a farmer's speciality. You can only keep them on that ground for so long, and then they have to move. So I think the general rule of thumb and rule of thinking now is that you move livestock far quicker than ever we have done before. But of course that means that you've got to have land. You've got to have that land to be able to move them on. And that means keeping farmers, giving them a sensible price for their lamb. Who eats lamb these days? The middle classes and the wealthy. It's not a meat I particularly, even though I'm here on holiday. This holiday's been saved up for a long, long time. But I certainly don't know about eating expensive meat. However, I'm not trying to claim any moral high ground at all. I eat far too much meat. But I think farmers do need to be incentivised in that respect. They really do. So again, some friendly comments would be appreciated, please, and we can spark more debate here. Educational information would be really appreciated. And as always, I ask for politeness. I always do, because I'm of that age, you know, I really do ask for politeness. Nobody will get any responses off me if they're really aggressive in nature. You know, there's no need for it. We're all here, hopefully, for a similar reason. Thanks for that. Another thing I just wanted to mention as well is this cloud, the issue of the cloud. I don't think people really realise that there is no such thing as some sort of magical storage facility that doesn't exist for all this data and media that we save and keep. It is all stored in physical databases, often by Google, in huge big warehouses with databases. So there's an implication there that, of course, we all pay for when we buy extra data. But just be aware as well, if you're just keeping masses and masses of information and you're paying for it, it's getting stored somewhere. So from an environmental point of view, you know, that's adding to your unseen carbon footprint. You may think it's magically saved, and it isn't. So, and again, I'm not trying to be the harbinger of bad news, you know, but I think really what I've seen in my lifetime so far, and our lifetimes go by in such a flash, what I have seen is that, you know, we've really worked hard in the last few years on individual rights for minority groups, which I think has been excellent for society, and has been essential for society. But I think while that's happening, it's also very, very easy to lose this sense of community and responsibility. So you can spend an awful lot of time fighting for a particular right, but there's still a balance to be met in terms of responsibility from your own waste and things that we say and things that we do. I think it's quite common sense when you stop and listen to it, but of course everybody's got a different value system. Some are similar, some are very different. But I think that's really to be borne in mind. You know, and I'm not harping back to some bygone age of, oh, it was fantastic during my childhood. It wasn't, you know, certain things were far worse than they are now. But of course, I didn't know any better then. You know, if you don't know something, you just make the most of what you've got, and you try and stay happy within that situation that you are. So, I think the responsibility angle now is important for people to actually start to realise that, you know, it's not all about them. Yes, you've got your individual rights, but balance that out with with the needs of your community and society as well. And that goes along with a reduction in religious belief and people not necessarily wanting to look a little bit more deeply into their life. And I'm not espousing any sort of religion or pulling anyone down. I do feel there are pros and cons of both, and that's a much broader topic. But an ethical system with which we all have and we all try and live within is essential for it to be fairly similar, I would say, regardless of what religion you've been brought up in or espouse, or one that you've developed or even fallen out of love with. It's still very, very important that we're all somewhere on the same page for this topic of looking after a home. So I think what I'm saying is just bringing everybody back to a point of, different culture, different language, different religions. However, this is our home. For whatever reason we're here, we need to look after it. Interesting statistic I heard yesterday was that over 1.3 billion people worldwide rely on forestry and trees for their livelihood, which is staggering, to be honest. It's over 1 in 7 people are relying on forestry in some form or another. That tells you how important trees are. There was also a point out that they do absorb heat from the sun, a certain amount, but they also transpire and get rid of taking carbon dioxide, and obviously in that process of photosynthesis and tree growth, they take in and store carbon into the atmosphere, out of the atmosphere. But as they slowly decay over many, many years and break down, that carbon is slowly released back into the atmosphere. So it's not quite as simple as just planting trees, is it? We know that. I think most people that have looked into this subject know it's not quite as simple as that. So this ongoing issue that we're going to have now for many, many centuries, potentially for the rest of human history, of keeping our atmosphere clean and healthy, is going to be a huge, huge topic. And thankfully now, after many years of environmentalists talking about it, it's coming to the top of many people's agenda. But still, in some people's eyes, it doesn't really feature, and that's a shame. But of course, there's only so many things you can, so much pressure you can have in your life, and responsibility, and some people have got far too much to deal with as it is without worrying about this issue. But as long as there's plenty of people, I would say, actually involved in this issue, I think that will be good enough for us all to do something about it. Right, I'll catch up with you later on then, folks. And as always, just plant trees.